The Conquest of Mecca. In the year 630 CE, an extraordinary event took place that would change the course of history forever. The peaceful conquest of Mecca by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Muslim army. For years, the Muslims of Medina had faced opposition and hostility from the Quraysh tribe in Mecca. Mecca was the birthplace of Islam, but it was also the center of idol worship. The Kaaba, the sacred house built by Prophet Abraham, had been filled with idols by the people of Mecca. This was a source of great pain for the Muslims, who believed in the oneness of Allah. Despite the past conflicts, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, always sought peace and reconciliation. After years of struggle, the time had come to return to Mecca. But this would not be a return of vengeance, it would be a return of mercy. The Prophet gathered an army of 10,000 Muslims from various tribes, a force large enough to show strength, but with a clear message. They sought peace, not war. The Prophet ordered his followers to avoid violence unless they were attacked. He wanted the people of Mecca to know that Islam was a religion of peace and mercy. As the Muslim army approached Mecca, the people of the city were filled with fear. They remembered how they had persecuted the Muslims, forcing them to leave their homes and seek refuge in Medina. But instead of meeting a vengeful army, they saw a different sight, an army that was calm, disciplined, and focused on peace. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, entered Mecca with his head lowered in humility, showing that this was not about pride or power, it was about fulfilling the will of Allah. As the Muslim army entered the city, there was no resistance. The people of Mecca realized that the Prophet had come not to destroy, but to bring them to the truth. One of the first actions the Prophet took was to go to the Kaaba, the most sacred place in Islam. As he entered, he began to cleanse the Kaaba of the idols that had filled it for so many years. One by one, the idols were destroyed, and the Kaaba was restored to its original purpose, a house dedicated to the worship of the one true God, Allah. After the idols were removed, the Prophet stood at the door of the Kaaba and addressed the people of Mecca. They were afraid, expecting punishment for their past actions. But instead, the Prophet offered them forgiveness. He said, "There is no blame on you today. May Allah forgive you, for He is the most merciful of those who show mercy." This act of forgiveness was powerful. It showed the people of Mecca that Islam was not about revenge or hatred, but about mercy, compassion, and justice. Many of the Quraysh, who had been enemies of Islam, accepted the faith that day, realizing the truth and beauty of the message the Prophet had brought. The conquest of Mecca marked the end of idolatry in the city. The people of Mecca embraced Islam, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, established the city as a center of Islamic governance. From that moment on, Mecca became the heart of the Islamic world, and it remains so to this day. This peaceful conquest was not just a military achievement. It was a victory of faith, mercy, and the triumph of truth over falsehood. The conquest of Mecca showed the world the power of forgiveness and the strength of a peaceful approach, changing the course of history and spreading the light of Islam far and wide.